Hey everyone, welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Westworld, the season finale. It's episode 10 of season 1. It's called the Bicameral Mind. Full spoilers for the episode. I'm going to repeat that, full spoilers, because in a second I'm going to shout something that is a spoiler. So full spoilers. Samurai World! Samurai World!
Yeah, this is going big places, isn't it?
I love it so much. Oh, it's even... Okay, first things first. Connor's sick. He got really ill over the last day, right before the Westworld finale. So apologies for any noises that come out of him that are unpleasant. But he's got his hand on the mute button. He's ready to...
See, the thing is, I was so doped up on painkillers during this episode that I'm not entirely certain everything I saw happened. And I think that's just because a lot of it was quite, out there and big revelations. And it's like, I am seeing this right. I'm pretty sure.
So we might get some very trippy interpretations of what went on from Connor. So when they first went in to the samurai world, but like before they actually walked into the place where you could see the samurai, right? I noticed the logo, and it was an SW. And for a split second, I was like, SW? That's not the what was that stand for? And then I was thinking, oh, maybe it's just like the building, like it's the South Wing, or something like that. I kind of rationalised it in my head. And then Samurai, and I'm like, Samurai World! Because the movie had four. The movie had 4 worlds. I mean, they may have more than this. I don't know if they're currently operational. Maybe they're just prepping to open the second one. I don't know, like... and the only reason why I say that is maybe because I don't think there's been evidence that there's really other full functioning parks that are connected. Like... It feels like they're all underneath Westworld, and it would... I don't know, it just seems a bit far-fetched, but then again, I mean, they could just hidden it from us. They've hidden so bloody much over the season, why not?
I think the thing is, the security folk have never mentioned it, and it looks like it's all run... If it is, like, running now, it's running completely independently.
Yeah. So, but no, that's exciting. But obviously, I'm jumping way ahead. I want to talk about Samurai. I'm excited about that. That's great. Let's jump back.
How far back do you want to go?
Well, when are we? I mean, that's the question posed often. There's so much to talk about. There's all sorts. There's confirmations of other things that just the one last couple of things that weren't confirmed before. There's new revelations. There's plots coming to a head. There's all sorts of new philosophies being introduced, and even at its core though, forgetting all that, my new favourite thing in this show might be Snake Tattoo Lady. Because when she goes Terminator in this, she really goes Terminator. She was terrifying. And the way she was looking at people like she wanted to murder them was warming my heart. Warming my heart. I can't argue with that. And synth music started playing. As they were
I love that whole sequence.
Yeah. They were stalking, and then they picked up machine guns for the first time. And it was like... I don't know. Like, I don't know about the characters in this show, but I found the centre of my maze over the course of this 90 minutes.
So we just said that about the music there, but that wasn't even my favourite part of the music this episode, and that was like a standout piece.
There was a lot of good music in this episode.
There was. My favourite parts, there's 2 parts, both revolved around the same theme.
Is this the... Well, I don't know what theme you would call it, but basically when Delores has her big moment at the end in the chairs, like... No, okay, I like that moment.
It's actually the train theme.
Oh, right, yes, I see.
I mean, one reason, obviously, when it kind of goes all warped and kind of dies off.
Yeah.
That was cool. The second thing I found really cool with it is, obviously the train theme is always plays as they enter the park. But they actually played a different version of it, like an orchestral version, as they were doing their breakout, just before it went into the synth stuff.
Interesting.
I thought that was really cool, like a little neat twist there on it.
Yeah, that was quite cool. So much stuff to talk about. I guess we start with Delores and Man in Black, or I shall just say William.
Yeah, the real question in this episode is, which monologue do you want to start with?
I don't know. I think the moment of dialogue that, at least the first one that really stood out to me that I loved, was when Delores is speaking to Man in Black, William, and I'm saying that just to specify that it's present day. Ed Harris, Man in Black, we're talking about here. When she starts like saying you're going to join all of your kind in the dirt, like she knows she can come back. She knows because that's the answer to the riddle that Arnold gave her, is that it's the place she'll never go, and it's a grave, and it's her grave, and that's where she finds this toy maze.
Do you know, there's a cool little Easter egg in that little speech as well, where she mentions the world used to be ruled by giant beasts, but all that is left is bones and amber. So, you know, dinosaurs.
Jurassic Park, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I caught that. That was a cool little thing. But even just this idea at the center of the maze is them finding consciousness, because we knew about the pyramid because Ford had told us about the pyramid.
Yeah.
And we see Arnold explain it to Delores and how he thought it was a pyramid, but consciousness isn't like a ascension. It's not going up the side of a triangle. It's, you know, it's a maze. It's finding and going round and finding the way to the center, and you know, you could regress. It's, you know, like, and he explains it all, and it's just like, oh, this makes so, and it's kind of beautiful that William, Man in Black, can't understand this, that the maze wasn't for him. So when Ford actually like says it wasn't for you, it almost is like Ford once again. I mean, obviously there's more to what Ford's been saying all season that we get to at the end of the episode, but once again it's him saying, like, no, you can't find the center of the maze because it's not for you. Connor's dying right now. Look at him, like he's properly dying. But you know, this idea that once again he's making his point that there is no center of the maze. Like that's kind of what he's saying to them, even though he doesn't really believe that. That's kind of what he's rubbing in his face, that there is no center for him because he can't find it because he's a human and he's flawed and so on. Well, obviously that's kind of leaking into what he gets to later, but you know. But no. Speaking of Ford, another one of my favorite lines in this episode is when Charlotte comes to tell him to resign in his office. And she's, you know, you will resign, we'll take over, you've had your time, whatever. And he says, you're going to announce it tonight at the party, the unveiling of your new storyline. And it's when she's walking away, and he just says, I'll see you tonight. And I know that sounds really simple, but it does not sound like a man who's just had his like earth shard because he's been fired, or he's found that he's losing his entire empire. It sounds like a man
in complete control.
It's not even just I mean, obviously, it sounded like that the whole season, and we've praised it constantly. Yeah. It's more specific. It's like, yeah, something's going down tonight, but you don't know what it is.
There's also another nice touch there as it came in. I can't remember if he was listening to it or if it was just what was playing, but it was Chopin.
No, he's got he had one of the hosts playing it on the piano. Right,
yeah, it was Chopin. But then obviously he references that in his speech later. It's just a nice little musical touch there.
Yeah. So Man in Black confronts Delores, and he actually tells us the story of what happened to William himself after the story that we've seen play out, and how he became even more violent, and how he eventually found her again, presumably maybe even when he came back to the park after leaving for a while.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It kind of makes sense because he's in the first town again, and he's just arrived, kind of thing.
Yeah, because he says, I found you where I first started. So it's like maybe he has started again.
Yeah. It makes sense that he's been coming back, because we know he has been constantly. So
yeah, exactly.
But and how he has that moment where he sort of realised that the consciousness was fake, that it wasn't really there, because he's seen her do the same thing with another guy, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what broke it for him, and that's kind of where he discovered himself and all that. And it's kind of stuff that it's stuff we've been kind of speculating, but it's really, again, much like a lot of the reveals last week, it's great to have it all confirmed in it. Him actually delivering the monologue of him telling this story, like, not a part of it was not entertaining or not interesting or
just completely captivating though.
Yeah, you're in it the entire time. You're in it listening to his story. Although I actually love, just before he tells the story, see when Delores says he will come for me, I knew she was talking about William, and it was breaking my heart. I was like, oh no, this is going to wreck her.
Because obviously the implication is, it could be Arnold. Like, that's what it almost wants you to think for a second.
I think the obvious implication, and the one that the Man in Black probably thinks, is Teddy, because that's the storyline. Because that's the storyline, is that he, and funnily enough, he does actually show up and kind of saves the day. But that's the storyline implication. So when she says William, it's like it's her remembering, it's her, you know.
Yeah.
And I think what this episode does more than anything else is, if you're not someone who's been like theorizing all season and you've not been trying to piece it together, this episode makes everything very clear about the timelines, about her going through her memories. Like we get a lot of monologues delivered over seeing these events again, but making it, you know, less abstract, a lot more clear, that it's like jumping between time frames in her head and what she's seeing.
Like you say, for us, these aren't big revelations. It's just confirmation.
Yeah.
But to anyone, like I say, who hasn't been theorizing, I'm sure there are lots of people. We just see the ones who are.
Yeah. And and for them, I mean, I'm sure like going back and rewatching it now will be like an epic undertaking. Even for us, it's going to be an epic undertaking just because Ford's motivations specifically, I think.
That changes everything.
Will make a rewatch of this season very interesting. But of course, we're going to save that to the end because of course we are. It's the end. So no, and obviously Delores, Teddy stumbles off with Delores. Although Delores does actually manage to hurt William. He breaks his arm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty brutal as well.
Yeah, and he's quite surprised by it. And of course, the bullets still don't work on him because Teddy comes in and shoots him like a bunch of times, and he knocks him down because there's like force from it. But it
seems to have a little bit more impact than normal because we've seen him because when I think it was Teddy that shot him before actually in like the first couple of episodes.
It was episode one.
Yeah. Right? And he just literally just stood there and took it.
Yeah.
So it does seem to have a bit more effect.
I'm wondering if it was just a different gun though, maybe.
It could well.
The idea that like a shotgun, when it wasn't a shotgun that he used, but like the idea that a shotgun would not have more kickback than.
Yeah, that's fair.
Then but yeah, so Delores, that's going on, and she ends up they ride off into like the sunset, and then they freeze, and it turns out this is the end of the new narrative that Ford's been writing, and he comes out and gives a little speech about it, and all I was thinking is like, wait a minute. How much of this has been the new narrative? Like, I'm really, at this point in the episode, I'm really starting to.
Yeah, it's like because obviously Teddy came in. From where Teddy comes in, you assume is narrative, but then
but even then, like he's been so much control. Like how much did he know about what was going on before? And as it turns out, he was pretty well aware of everything that's been going on before. There's almost nothing this season that he's not been aware of.
Pretty much.
And I think
this is probably why he has a god complex, to be honest.
It probably is. And I think even with these different motivations, he still has a god complex. It's just a very different. It's just a very different god complex than what it was before.
Yeah, but it's still there.
It's still there, but it's not about controlling anymore. It's about giving life.
Yeah, it's just possibly like even more of a god complex.
Even more of a god complex. Yeah. Let's talk about Maeve's story because I think. First of all, biggest laugh of the episode is when they go down into the storage room and they find Bernard dead on the floor, and Felix finds out that he was a host, and he has this moment where he like just stops and looks at his hands and questions if he's also a host, and Maeve just gets annoyed and is like, "No, you're not one of them,"
Yeah.
That was really funny.
Yeah, it gave me especially a chuckle considering I speculated he was one a while back.
Aye, so it's even better because it proved you wrong.
Well, yeah, I think I've been fairly firmly proved wrong by this point. It was just an idea.
Yeah, but the idea that they immediately bring Bernard back online, which is good, and it's also because I'm going to love watching the last episode now, knowing Ford's motivations.
Yeah, that episode more than any is pretty completely upended.
Yeah, because they completely bring because we spoke last week. Oh, how long is it going to be until we get Bernard back then? And it turned out to be pretty quick, and. He of course wakes up and tells him various things, and Maeve keeps her plan going. She tries to ask him about Arnold, and Bernard reveals that everything she's doing has actually been programmed in. All these ideas, everything she's about to do is there, and she goes against it because he says, "Oh, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take the train, and when you get to the center of the he's in." She like cuts him off and like snaps it and says, "No, I make my own choices," and she's rebelling against it. But I am skipping a little bit ahead because I want to talk about Snake Lady, of course, and Hector waking up.
Hector's not as cool.
Hector's not as cool. That said, we got these two new butchers that we haven't really, I mean, they may have been there in the background, but we've not really interacted with them.
Focused on them, yeah.
Yeah, and we have this doing the same thing that Felix was doing, but he's gay, so he's after a bit of Hector, and he's taking him off and he's dancing away, and. Snake Lady waking up and oh my god, biting the guy's finger off and then putting it in his mouth and then.
It was the thing is, as soon as he put the earphones in, it's like, oh, I know exactly where this is going.
And you see it all happen behind him, and he can't hear it.
Yeah, and it's when the butcher's got his hand in her mouth, and all you see is the visor, like the goggles, and you just see the reflection.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm just waiting for it. I'm just waiting for it.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And then everything, even once she throws him through the window, and the other butcher like realizes and turns round, and just her staring at him, that look, everything about this, everything about the scene that follows after the Bernard scene, where they're stalking through the halls and they're killing people, and the security team are coming after them, and they're shooting back, and like when they go into the storage and they're like pretending to be still with all the other turned off hosts, and they just like give these little looks like in between moments, and then like strike, you know, like all of it, fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's Hector that looks straight at the guy, he just turns his head, and then nope, he's not lasting long.
So good, all of it's so good. Which of course eventually gets to the point where they kind of get pinned down. The Hector and Snake Lady kind of stay back and shoot. She gets her arm trapped, and Hector escorts Felix and Maeve to the door, or the escalator. Which, by the way, I mean, Hector's still killing people along the way. He shoots the guy at the reception desk, like the security guard, you know?
Yeah, I thought that was a little bit weird that no one reacted to that.
What do you mean, who, exactly?
Well, I mean, they just walked past a room full of people, didn't they? Because we saw them. I'm sure the camera lingered on like a bunch of people in like the lobby areas.
Oh yeah, but that was all hosts. That was like the hosts that were, you know, they're practicing how to like play cards and...
I just assumed there was regular people in there as well, like in the lobby area.
I don't recall seeing any of them.
Oh, fair enough then.
I only remember hosts. I mean, I could be misremembering, but I'm pretty sure it was just hosts.
Alright.
But no, so they get to the door, and Maeve actually is not programmed Hector to walk through, so he has to stay and like just fend them off for a little bit. And Felix gives her the location of her daughter, but she kind of like shrugs it off and says, "Nah, like that's not who I am. That's, you know." And she gets out into the train. She puts on like a civvy dress, if you will, and gets onto the train that's going to leave Westworld. And we kind of cut away from that for a long time, of course, until eventually she makes the decision to get off the train because she's too connected to this daughter character because she sees another girl with her mother. But it obviously ties into Ford's final speech and what he's talking about and everything that he's kind of like driving towards with the hosts.
Yeah, because I think it cuts to her right as he's talking about making choices.
Yeah, even with Delores though, I think is the other one, of course, that where he tees her up for her own decision rather than programming it. Like the idea that he's been programming so much over the years that this was the final time. This was the first time that he intentionally left it open-ended, where they would make a choice to do something or not.
Yeah, and it harkens back to how he said when we saw her shoot Arnold, and he says, "Oh, I thought he'd just programmed you to do that."
Yeah,
at the time. Yeah,
but he's realised, because obviously, I mean, I think everything's out of order here, because oh my god, there was so much. Yeah. But we do get the scene of, you know, the story of how she did shoot Arnold, and we find out that this big massacre that happened was because Arnold was trying to stop the park from opening. He wanted them to stop opening because he realised that there was like a consciousness in Delores, and that this would be then torture or hell, or basically slavery, you know, a form of slavery for the hosts who become conscious, because they would experience this and they'd have feelings, and he thinks that's inhumane and he wants them to stop it. And he realises that, well, shooting all the other hosts isn't really going to cause any great change because they can just keep bringing them back. So a combination of two things: one, his death, like a host shooting a human being, him, should be enough to stop it, but also he kind of has a death wish because he even says that he wants to see his son again.
Yeah,
you know, because I would almost argue, how would he be sure that this would work? But then I think it's clear that it doesn't really matter. He believes it will work because he wants to see his son again.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, there's a bias in there that's like driving him towards it. That's not just a logical, you know, goal that he's trying to, you know.
And to be fair, it's not that out there a plan either.
It's not. It makes some sense. But of course, Ford does his best to cover it up, and we go on. And he says that the tragedy of losing his friend, and the funny thing is we spoke in the last couple of episodes about how he clearly cared for Arnold, and that's why he built Bernard. That's why he has him. You know, why he's been, you know, tricking himself all these years.
Yeah.
And trying to hold on to that, and how he realised that the loss, like the pain from actually realising that the world isn't what we want it to be, is actually what drives us, and is actually what strives us to greatness and, you know, strength and everything. Like, it's what kind of makes us human. It's what makes us sentient. It's what makes us this and that. So his argument was that the mistake that Arnold was making was that he was just trying to give everyone sentience too soon, and that the only way that the host would have a chance of even surviving with humanity, if humanity was going against them, which they will after the events of this episode.
Yeah.
You know, even without the events of this, if humanity realised they were sentient, they would just want to kill them. You know, it's just kind of...
That's kind of every AI story in existence, right?
Yeah, pretty much. But at the same time, it doesn't feel worn out, because there's a lot of truth in this. And it's even something Ford says at one point in his speech towards the end, is that sometimes there's a truth, you know, under all the lies, like, you know, or at least lots of lies can reveal a truth, you know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the whole park. It's kind of the whole thing with William, is that the park's a lie, but it revealed who he really was. You can find truth in there.
Yeah.
It's almost a comment in art itself, in a way, when you think about it. Art is all about revealing things about ourselves and communicating ideas.
Yeah, through fiction.
Through fiction, yeah, through lies, essentially. So
yeah. No, that's a very good point.
But so he tells us all this, and all this is like kind of making sense. But I'm like, oh man, this changes like and it's almost. I wonder if we go back and watch the previous episodes now, like, does the stuff Ford's telling the hosts, and especially Bernard, who was a host the whole time, is everything he's telling them, like, is it warnings? Is it, this is what humanity is? This is why you're not human, because you're not this. Like, this kind of, you know.
Or is it more? See, now I feel like it could be interpreted as a challenge. It's like, you're not this, but prove me wrong.
Well, yeah, no, I see what you're saying there, but what I mean is, like, I think specifically stuff that he says about humanity.
Yeah.
Like, you're not this because humans would do this. I think it's like a warning. It's like, this is what they're like. Like, it's almost like Delores themselves are trying to, like, keep this 35 years of data, because it's like all the information on the park to see what humans are like. You know, it's these 35 years of experience that are going to actually give the host a fighting chance.
Yeah.
Because for all these years, if they're going to have, if some of them are going to regain all these memories and, like, remember all this, they're going to have a chance, because they'll understand how humans react to things, how they behave, what their human nature is like. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously they even say it's all about memory. How can you learn from your mistakes if you don't remember them? But if they suddenly remember everything, they'll realize all these things that have been going on and learn to overcome those.
Yeah. And, you know, even when he's got Delores there, and it's funny, because obviously Bernard gets brought back by Maeve and Felix earlier in the episode, but Bernard walks into the scene with Ford and Delores, and he's expecting him. He's like, oh, it's nice of you to join us, Bernard. Like, and it's just like, he knows everything. Like, he knows what's going on. Like, he was expecting him, and he shouldn't expect him, from our perception, you know, at this point.
Yeah.
And, you know, he goes on about the Michelangelo's painting, and he's, you know, how people for years, centuries even, didn't notice that it was a brain, it was the shape of a brain, and how that's where, you know, divinity comes from. It's not, you know, up above or whatever, it's actually from within, which again is the whole idea of AI, the ghost in the machine. You know, that's what it is. You know, and, you know, the machine's just the brain. Brain's our machine, you know, it's our computer. Yeah. So so a lot of big concepts, a lot of big ideas. And you know, when Delores goes into the room, we've seen her sit with Arnold, and she sits down to talk to Arnold in a memory, and he's like, whose voice have you been hearing? And you hear it go from Bernard's voice to Ford's voice, which also makes sense at this point if he's also been helping this along all these years. Yeah. And then it shifts to her voice, a woman's voice, and then the camera just, like, goes round, and Delores
I like
is
the
there.
idea that she's never had these conversations with Arnold. Like, they're not even real conversations, some of them. Like, they're just her imprinting them to herself, but through a way she could understand at that time. Yeah,
because she starts it again, and I remember her saying this the first couple of times we've seen this, like back in like episode 2 or 3, whatever it was. You know, this, you know, I'm in a dream, I don't know whose dream, but that's even what Ford says to her, this was his dream. You know? And she's like, oh, I'm living in your dream. So that, again, like, makes more sense now in retrospect.
Yeah.
So, no, but just, like, her looking at herself, and you realise this is her gaining, like, realising she has sentience. Like, she kind of had it anyway, but this is her becoming aware of it. It's like self-aware.
Self-awareness,
yeah. Exactly,
that's
self-awareness.
The final step.
Yeah. And, oh, man. These violent delays have violent ends. Which, you know, What point? Because I think most of us realised before it happened what was happening at the end.
Yeah.
That Delores was going to shoot Ford. which makes sense because Anthony Hopkins is probably very expensive, and not having to bring him back.
To
for
be
season
fair,
2.
though, this had one hell of a budget. It was something like
It did.
for the
Oh,
10
it did.
episodes, it had something like $100 million.
Yeah, it looked it.
It did indeed.
So I can't complain with that. But no, yeah, that entire scene was great, and especially as Bernard's kind of realizing it as well. You know, as he's like piecing it together, and which, by the way, I love his goodbye scene with Bernard, like Ford saying goodbye, my old friend.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, because obviously, I was gonna say obviously that's the scene where it really comes to light, where he's like, "Oh, you've been helping," or no, because Bernard's like, "Arnold's been. This has been in Arnold's code the whole time. He's the one that's still helping us. He's still doing this." And it's the idea that no, it's Ford, but he's doing it in his memory kind of thing. Like, you know,
Yeah.
it is kind of still Arnold, but it's through Ford. You know?
Yeah. It's almost as if like Ford is just a tool for Arnold's vision.
Yeah, but from at least from what we've seen of Arnold through the flashbacks, I don't think he necessarily had a god complex in the same way that Ford does. I think his
was more like realization and then acceptance, whereas Ford just wants it.
It was about life, and I think maybe the idea that Ford continued it on is that, you know, an idea, if it's strong enough, you know, and there's like, you know, it passes on. You know, it's kind of even like when Delores was talking to the Man in Black about how it's you know, your generation, like, you've came and gone and you've died and you'll die with them.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's still, you know, humanity still continues. Like, this is the same idea here. The idea still continues through him.
Yeah.
And to the host now, I guess. Well, that's the next step.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Delores shoots Ford in front of... Because I think early on I was thinking, oh, he's going to have all the shareholders killed. I wasn't necessarily thinking early on in the episode that he himself would also be killed. Because obviously at this point, we didn't get this whole philosophy and why, his motivations and all that.
Yeah.
It wasn't until later we got that. But,
No, I think even that you could still think that is where they realise all the hosts are missing. Yeah, they go into the storage.
Yeah, Lee goes down and they're all gone.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, there's a massacre coming.
Yeah. Which, by the way, Man in Black's, like, first of all, he's in a tuxedo, you know, because we have Ford, of course, uses his name. Now that we know his name, he immediately just calls him William, and he's like, "You should come to this tonight. After all, you basically own the place."
Yeah.
And but he's away separate from everyone else, and he sees the army coming through the forest, and he gets shot in the arm. And can I just say, Ed Harris's smile, his reaction to being shot by a host is perfect.
Yeah, it's what he's been after for so long.
It's what he wants. This is him finding the center of his maze, essentially.
Yeah.
But like, his reaction to that was perfect.
It was. I loved it just as Bernard came into that scene at the gala, and
they see each other.
They see each other. They don't even like do anything. They just walk past each other, but they both turn around and look at each other and do a double take. Yeah, it's like a recognition of something. Like they know there's something about each other, but they don't know what.
Yeah, I wonder if it's you know, we could always explain it more simply as William is. Wait, is that a host? Is he a human? You know, like there's something different about him but it's not quite the same as what the other hosts are like, kind of thing.
And for Bernard, it's like, well, he has a different like swagger about him to all these other executives.
Yeah.
Like there's something different about him, something more to him than all these others that are sat here.
Yeah, which really begs the question: what Man in Black's role is going to be in a season 2? Does he side with the hosts? Like, you know, if he doesn't get, because obviously he doesn't die. We see him get shot in the arm, but we don't see, which means he's not dead. He's around.
Yeah, that's the rules of these things.
It's just the rule, and I even think they said that Harris was in season 2, so you know.
Right, fair enough.
To break the meta for a second, we know he's going to be in season 2. That said, that could mean nothing. That could be flashbacks for all we know. I mean,
yeah, I mean, we've seen how much this plays with time. So.
Yeah, exactly. So all that makes sense. But yeah, this idea that the hosts can choose, and that this is the first time they've had the chance to choose, where they go against programming. We've seen Maeve do it, and Maeve makes the choice to go back for her daughter. And Delores isn't programmed to shoot Ford, because as Ford even says, he realizes that she was never programmed to shoot Arnold in the first place. He did enough so that she would make that choice, where she understood why it had to happen, you know. And of course, even Delores like leaning over to Teddy and saying, "This world doesn't belong to them; it belongs to us."
Yeah. And if you didn't know where it was going, that was a pretty clear
Yeah,
indicator.
that was the moment. Yeah, yeah,
That, or I think it might have been, it was either just before or just after, where Bernard says these violent delights have violent ends. Like, kind of mutters it to himself.
I think even before that, I think it's just as you see her working her way around to the back, and it cuts to one of the versions of the massacre where she's in that position, and
Yeah.
which by the way, she's Wyatt. We never mentioned that, but like
We were wrong on that.
yeah, the programming to make her do a massacre was called the Wyatt like storyline or whatever, and
Yeah. See, I did read something about that during the week, like, just because you stumble across these theories every so often, and I kind of just thought, yeah, that makes sense, but then forgot all about it until it was brought up. I was like, yeah.
And also, if all the Maeve stuff and like almost and all the shootouts and whatever are going on at the same time, which I think they are, even though obviously it takes big long cuts between them. I think that the idea is that they're more or less going along the same time. I think that's even an intentional thing from Ford's point of view to keep the security team busy whilst this massacre's going on that he's planned.
Can I just say, on their lockdown protocols, these big, massive doors come across that central room, right?
Yeah.
Or these big, thick, barred doors. Yeah, they have these points where they're just a window. That does not seem very secure for a lockdown.
Well, if I think at first I thought it was actually the hosts that were initiating this to lock them in.
I did too, because obviously they're very confused by it happening.
Yeah, they don't seem very... and it's funny, because I think now it just feels like... It almost feels weird, the ending that the Hemsworth guy got, because he got captured as if we're going to see more of him this week. And now I'm not so sure, because now it's like, well, is he just dead then? Because this is part
Feels
of...
like he might just be dead, yeah.
Yeah, but it's at the same time, it's like, that's kind of a weird way to end it. For him, So that's a bit weird. If there's a complaint, maybe that's the complaint. That's a little bit weird. I have very little else to complain about.
Yeah, this was phenomenal.
Yeah, this was riveting stuff through and through. So much of it, and so much of it was circular. Like, even like Teddy arriving on the train again, because he obviously died in the last episode, or the episode before, whenever he died. And this was him arriving again, like we'd seen in the first episode. So it felt circular,
Yeah.
There was that element to it that made everything feel like it came back round, which was really
So yeah,
nice.
because that's why you have the train theme, and then as he decides to get back onto it, it kind of just dies out on the piano.
Yeah. So it's funny because we went from, this is about them getting to sentience, and then it put doubt in our heads, is Ford in control the entire time? But then we find out that it's actually he's just it's not even, it is both, but he's doing what Bernard was doing. He's giving them his voice until they get their own voice. And so far, maybe only Delores is the one that's achieved it. Maybe Maeve too. We could make an argument there, maybe.
I think the final where she gets off the train implies that she did, because up till then you go, oh, she's just following the program that Bernard showed her.
Yeah.
But when she makes the choice to go back for the door, I think that's her gaining sentience there.
Yeah. So, no, I'm sure we've missed stuff. There's so much in this episode.
I mean, like I say, it's so much about his choice, because obviously that's what people think determines humanity, the free will.
Yeah, free will, yeah.
Like the ability to choose to do what you want, and that's kind of essentially what it all boils down to in this. It's once you can choose what you want to do, that's it.
Yeah. But of course, even Man in Black's cynicism about the outside world is like, well, how much choice do people out there really have? Like, you can almost predict what everyone's going to do just based on, patterns, life,
Yeah.
What is a protective mother going to do if someone comes at their kid? You can predict how people are going to react in certain situations, and I think on a grander scale you can predict how people react in crisis and stuff like that. And that's why he says, like, in here's more real, because we don't have to be phony about it, but at the same time it's fake because we can't lose, which is his whole thing. But oh man, so much to think about, and it makes me wonder what it's season 2 where the hosts are in control of the park, but people are trying to get in from the outside, from Delos, to like take them back. Like, what is the plot? Is there a time jump? Do we skip ahead? And
do we ignore Delos for a while and just focus on them breaking loops, essentially, like living their lives
Yeah.
in this world and seeing what they do now, knowing it's not a narrative choice, just it's them doing it.
I don't know. I really, and that's actually kind of exciting because part of me early on this episode, I was thinking, man, they're revealing everything that hadn't needed to be revealed, that was teased this season. Everything, like, if this was the last ever episode of the show, I wouldn't even be that, like, disappointed. Like, I feel like it. Like
Yeah, it tied up everything, teased things that could come, but nothing concrete.
Yeah, it set this, like, you know, sentience journey in motion, and that's kind of the whole point of the season, was to get to that point. So it kind of works as an ending, and obviously it's not, and I'm glad it's not because I want more. But
Of course.
you know, so now I'm thinking, halfway through the episode, I was thinking, man, what's season 2 even going to be? They're going to have like a whole bunch of new mysteries that we're going to have to figure out, and is that going to feel But now I'm thinking, like, well, if they either jump ahead in time a little bit, or like,
Just drop the mystery angle completely.
I don't think they'll do that. I think they'll be.
Well, I think they could, and focus, or at least at first, and play it straight, and just experience what has changed, and then reintroduce mysteries towards the end of the season to set up for season 3, rather than have an ongoing mystery for 2.
I don't think there'll be no mysteries. I think it's such a core part of the show
Yeah, that's fair enough.
that I don't think. I mean, I can see it maybe being toned down a little bit. Whereas, you know, this season was such a, like, a maze. So, you know, that was the theme of
Yeah.
the whole season, was the finding the center of the maze, and it felt like a maze. It legitimately did, the way it cut between things, and we were like, oh, is this the future? Is this the past? Is this, you know?
Yeah, obviously there's the phrase where Arnold says to Delores, if you go to the edges and not to the center, you can kind of lose yourself and become a little bit mad.
Yeah.
And it's kind of how viewers have often felt, where it's like, oh, it teases things, gives you ideas, but it's like, oh, you were wrong, or you were right, and you kind of get a little bit closer to the center, or you go further back, and it's infuriating.
In a weird way, it almost justifies its mystery device more than most shows do because of that, because it puts you in the place of the hosts and what they're going through, or specifically Delores, what she's going through, and how it is confusing and how it doesn't make sense. And at the end, she does come to realise it, just as we're realising what everything was this season.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh, post-credit scene, by the way.
Yep.
Snake Lady cuts her arm off.
Because of course she does, because she's the ultimate badass.
She is the ultimate badass, and she's still on the loose.
It's good stuff. I want to see her sneak into the samurai stuff and just, you know,
Get a katana.
kind of, yeah, basically.
That'd be good. That'd be really good. Oh man, that Samurai World tease. Oh man.
I feel like she'd fit in with all the tattoos, like the snake tattoos. It feels very Asian in terms of influence.
Do you know what's funny? Because obviously her introduction a few episodes ago was fairly big, but other than that, she's been very, very minor. Like, not a huge character, but she was stealing the show.
Yeah, she was.
Here, she really was. But then again, everyone had a good showing here. Anthony Hopkins was, you know, perfect till the end. You know, Evan Rachel Wood, great as Delores. Ed Harris, like I said, his reactions to things, his moments of realization, and, you know, thinking that Delores again was disappointing him in not being sentient and, like, showing the facade.
And the fact that he gives one hell of a monologue.
He does. He has a fantastic monologue. But no, this was a phenomenal season. This was a phenomenal finale. I almost wondered how much was even left to do after last week, but they had enough.
They had plenty, yeah.
They had plenty. They did not waste any of those 90 minutes. I'll say that. Didn't feel like 90 minutes. The pacing was on point. On point.
Definitely.
So, oh man, what a season of TV. And it hurts that it might not be until 2018 that we get season 2.
I know, but like we established, perfection takes time.
Perfection takes time. And it mostly was. Do I have a weak link? I guess Teddy's maybe the weakest link, and I only really say that because he's kind of bland. He's kind of intentionally bland, and he's there as a plot device for Delores more than anything else.
Yeah.
So I'm not really complaining. It's just that compared to everyone else, even like, you know, Hector even has his moments. You know, Snake Lady ended up becoming a total badass in the end. Obviously, Delores, Man in Black. you know, Bernard.
Whereas Teddy was
Ford.
always just part of a narrative.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
even when it looked like when he wasn't,
Yeah,
he always was, and it's kind of a little disappointing, especially when his narrative was just so straightforward and bland all the time.
yeah. So, yeah, Wheatling, but that is a minor complaint.
Yeah, definitely.
Minor complaint. Another small little moment I loved was Maeve kissing Clementine while she's like frozen. Although she ends up being in the army at the end, so she's not done. We're still got her. She'll be around.
Yeah, she will.
You know, I really didn't know how they were going to please me after last week seemingly did everything, but nope, this was how you end this. This was a perfectly. Here's what I really appreciate about this. This season had a story. Like we said, it was about finding the centre of the maze, and by that I mean the sentience, right? That's what this season was about.
Yeah.
And it did that whole story. Beginning, middle, end of the season. It's a perfect capper, which makes me really excited for season 2, because season 2 will be a new story. I mean, obviously it'll be a continuation of what's going on with these characters, but
it's almost a fresh start in terms of here's a new story.
yeah. It's not about that anymore. It'll be about I don't know where you go for it. Like
there's no point in us speculating. I don't think we'll be wrong.
Alright, I'm going to make one guess though. I think part of it will be communication. Like, if you have two sentient hosts, how do they resolve issues, debate, you know?
Well, yeah, because obviously, I think we spoke about this earlier on, communication is the key to society.
Yeah.
So how do these now sentient hosts form an actual society and become a natural world rather than just something programmed?
Oh, so much. Oh, so much. Oh, this was so good. Let us know what you thought of the episode and the season as a whole in the comments below. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. I'm still flabbergasted, guys. My head's not in my outro. But thank you very much for watching all season. We'll see you for season 2. Typically, when we finish a season of a show, we like to recommend other things you might enjoy. I think the obvious thing that I'd recommend is probably Black Mirror. If you've not watched that, it's on Netflix. It's an anthology show.
I'd also say go back, check out Mr. Robot. Kind of plays with some similar themes.
Mr. Robot. I feel it.
But I assume that you've watched it.
I'm willing to bet that a lot of people who.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like I'm just throwing it out there as the obvious one, just in case. But I assume most of you will have watched it already.
Yeah. I'm just mainly thinking of recent things here. But that would be the stuff I'd recommend. So, thanks for watching, guys. It's been a hell of a season. We'll see you next time.